Well, welcome everyone. I'm Garrett Westlake. I'm the Executive Director of the Da Vinci Center for Innovation here at Virginia Commonwealth University. And the Da Vinci Center is home to the Masters of Product Innovation program, the first Masters of Product Innovation program actually in the country. This program launched in 2012 and was the first of its kind. And we've only gone on since then to add some additional firsts. We also have the first graduate certificate in healthcare innovation in the Da Vinci Center as well. So we're all about being on the cutting edge. But I'm joined by Allison Schumacher and Mary Chris Escobar here tonight. So this is our sort of academic leadership team here in the Da Vinci Center. These are the folks that come together to supervise all of the curriculum and the faculty that really make this program go. I wanted just to share a couple overarching comments about the program and how its program of study fits together. And then Allison and Mary Chris are going to walk you through more specifics around what the semester by semester looks like, application details, everything else you need to know for this program. But I think, just as a means of starting, something that I like to share, because I think if you're thinking about coming to a graduate program, you might be wondering about doing more school. And something that is just very personal to me is that I hate school. I've always hated school. And while I hate school, I love learning. And to me, what we do in the Da Vinci Center, particularly in the master's program, is all about learning. And it's learning in its truest sense. It's learning based in just pure curiosity. So it's not saying this is a subject, you need to learn this and then take a test. And then we're going to make you learn this subject and take a test. And magically, we think you've learned something because you've taken a whole bunch of tests and regurgitated a whole bunch of information. You should go to another program if that's what you're looking for. This program is all about wanting to really understand by hands-on doing the actual work, not just reading about it, not just taking tests, but working alongside industry partners, working alongside startups, actually using prototyping equipment to 3D print or to laser cut, getting real user feedback for your designs, for your innovations, for your products. And so everything we do has that capacity to really enhance and build knowledge. And we do that in real world ways. We don't just look at case studies. We are the case studies oftentimes. I think a great question that we got asked when I first joined this program was, where is sort of the introduction to innovation course? And I turned that back around and said, I think that that's really done in Allison's class that she teaches, which is our applied projects course, where you have students that are actively working on product innovation for a university health system, for a startup company, for a Fortune 500 company, and all of those different student teams come together in class and share what innovation and product management look like within those different sectors in the real world in real time. And that's how you understand what the state of innovation is, not by reading a case study about what Coca-Cola did 5 years ago, right? I think there's a really big difference between getting to be inside a company with their leadership team or with their innovation team building product and understanding it in that context. And I have to say that oftentimes what happens is students will come in saying, this is the company or this is the kind of environment that I want to be a part of. And they know it only from the outside, right? They know it only from what they think goes on inside the company. And this program gives you the ability to go inside a company, work alongside those teams, and students have a lot of aha moments. Either, oh my gosh, I had no idea that's what that work was actually like and I love it. Or, oh my gosh, I don't love it, right? I thought startups didn't have any money and I didn't want to work for a startup until I worked for one and realized that you wear 5 hats in a startup and I'm someone that loves wearing 5 hats. And then the converse of working for a company that's like, wow, look at all these resources they have. I love working in a really resource-rich environment. So, that's really how we structure this program. And I think we've built some really fantastic tools and opportunities alongside the master's program. So something I'm hoping you've all heard about. If not, you'll hear more about it for sure, but that's Shift, which is our new retail lab and student storefront. So this is a new facility that was really brought on to support the master's program. And what this facility is, it's a 2,700 square foot facility designed on a black box theater concept, actually, but it's a retail lab and storefront where students can sell product and services directly to the public. You can also engage the public in early discussion and feedback around product ideas. which means that you can have an early prototype in mind and put it on a shelf and engage prospective customers. And that gives you the opportunity to learn in real time what the marketplace thinks about your product or about your idea. So this storefront concept is something that is unique. Again, it's the first in the country. So nowhere else has this sort of dedicated student storefront, which is your opportunity to sell your product directly to the public, to gain that customer experience and those insights. And you can do that alongside industry partners, whether you're working with one of our Fortune 500 companies, with community startups. You're going to hear some exciting news here in the next couple of weeks. I'll give you a little bit of the sneak peek that we plan to also be hosting in this storefront community entrepreneurs. So not only are you going to have the opportunity to sell your product and service out of the storefront, but you're also going to have the ability to intern or to work with existing community startups in Richmond that are operating out of this space. The first cohort of community startups are joining us in October. We're going to be hosting 3 companies from the Jackson Ward Collective. So that's a collective of Black-owned businesses and entrepreneurs here in Richmond. And 3 of those Black-owned businesses are going to be moving into the storefront, having office space and working tandem with students on their companies and on their businesses for the end of the quarter of this year. And then we hope that in the future, every quarter, new companies will come in and work alongside students in the retail lab and storefront. So that's just one example of an entirely different learning environment. We call it a retail lab because this is part of your classroom. Imagine going to class in a true retail store where your products or your ideas are being showcased on the shelves and people are being invited in to give feedback on those things. And that's what your classroom environment looks like. That's the type of dynamic that we're creating in this program. I'll answer a question that we get asked a lot, which is like, what do students do that go through this program? And the answer is they go on to do a whole myriad of things. There's no one path. This is not a cookie cutter program, right? This is not you come into this and this is what you do. You come into this and you go work for McKinsey. You come into this, you go work for Boeing. This is not one of those tracked programs. What this is an opportunity to wear a lot of different hats in a really short period of time. So what students have the ability to do is say, maybe I want to be a product manager. And they have the opportunity to wear that hat and take on that role, work on an industry sponsor project as a product manager. Then they might say, you know what, maybe I like product design better. Instead of product management, I want to do product design. They have the ability to take on that on another project and work that all the way through. I see this program, which is either completed in 13 months or 18 months, more as like 3 to 4 years of work experience. This takes the place of taking a job, working at it for a couple of years and saying, you know what, this is not really what I wanted to do, leaving that job, going to another one and being like, oh, you know what? I don't know that this is what I wanted to do, but I should probably stay longer than 6 months. You can eliminate all of those steps if you're wondering what's next for you and just crush through each one of those scenarios every couple months in this program. In addition to our classes, our students are always working with other partners. I met with a student today, really interested in architecture and interior design. She didn't just want to go to school to be an interior designer or to be an architect. She was really fascinated about the user experience. So she wants to take product innovation and the user experience piece and combine that with her love of architecture. And we're connecting her with architectural and interior design firms that we work with so that she can work alongside them and do potentially an independent study and definitely a project to enhance her understanding of both of those fields together. So that level of personalization is something that is really important to us, which is why there's no one track for any student. We keep this program small on purpose. You're going to find that your faculty are all in this program. We love this. We are doing this because we love it. And we enjoy meeting the new students that come in and having everyone's unique lived experience. This program has historically attracted an incredibly diverse set of students. So we have students that are coming in that have worked in industry, that have years of experience. We have students coming straight out of undergrad that think they have the next great startup idea and have an invention that they want to bring to market. We have people trying to come from industry, coming from startups. This program has historically served almost in the last several years, majority women of color, which is really rare in a program like this. Our program is incredibly diverse. And I think with that comes a really rich set of experiences and ideas that lead to the level of innovation that our partners look to us for. which is why we are so prolific in being able to attract industry sponsors and partners. If you look at our advisory board, we have a corporate advisory board for the Da Vinci Center. If you look at those companies, it's Capital One, it's CarMax, it's Adobe, it's IDEO-based design thinking firms. Like, it's a really eclectic mix of industry partners that come to us to do work for them. For the longest time, we've done the most projects with Pfizer's consumer products division. So working on products that Pfizer is selling in Target and CVS, things like Emergency and chapstick that Pfizer makes. I think of Pfizer now as like a company that makes a vaccine, right? But they also make all these consumer products, and we've done 15 industry sponsored projects with their consumer products division. And several of those went on to go onto the shelf. And these were projects that students had a hand in bringing to market for a major corporation like that. And those companies come to us because the magic is in that diversity. The magic is in these really cross-disciplinary, like, incredible blend of community that we form in this program. So we've typically averaged a little around 20 students, typically under a couple of students under 20. And that's sort of our cohort number. We run the program as a cohort so that we get to know you as individuals. You get to know us as individuals on your faculty. And we get to really go with you and walk alongside you when you say, I'm interested in architecture and interior design, or I'm really interested in the streaming space and I'm interested in the future of where Pandora and Netflix are going. Can you help me get into that space? Or I'm really interested into the medical field and can I get connected to people that are doing medical device? We like being able to walk alongside you, open up our networks and connect you to people that have those unique expertise. We are not here to say that we know all things. Your faculty are not going to be experts in their one specific siloed field. You have people that have a really incredible, diverse set of knowledge and experiences across your faculty, but more than anything, we know what we don't know, and we know the people that know things. And so our primary job is to hear where you're at and what you want to know more about, teach you as much as we possibly can, and then connect you to the people that know way more about what it is you want to learn and make sure that you have access to them. And that's how the program is structured. We don't have a lot of ego. We do about our program. We do about the way that we structure education and learning, but not about our own individual knowledge being greater than anybody else's. That's just not a program that we're built on. We're not a program built on ego. You'll find that through our admissions process, it's about getting to know you as individuals. It's not about your test scores. It's not about, what your undergraduate GPA was. Those are things we could almost care less about. We want to know who you are as a person. We want to know what excites you. We want to know how you would be as a teammate. We want to know how you would be as a colleague. Those are the things that we want to get to know through your personal statement and through spending time with us in the interview process. So that's the high level overview of the program. Like I mentioned, this is a team-based effort for us with different strengths. Allison and Mary Chris are much better with the details, which is why they're going to get into the actual details with you around timelines and dates and different semester by semester curriculum. But I wanted to give you all just a feeling of this is the culture of what this program's about. This is what we do. And some of the exciting things like the Shift Retail Lab that are opening this fall for the first time that are really going to bring this program to the next level. So I know I just did a whole lot of fire hosing at you all, especially via Zoom, which feels extra brutal. So I will actually take a breath and happy to answer any questions in the chat, or feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask any question of me before I turn it over to Mary Chris and Allison.
I'll ask a quick question. I'm coming from, my product is more of a service, okay? I'm a STEM facilitator currently / Scrum Master for Richmond Public Schools, okay? And actually I took Michael's Scrum Master course. That's where I got my certification from.
Yep.
I'm looking to transition to the private sector through my consulting company. And with my consulting company, what I would like to build would be a team of consultants, of course, first starting with myself, building my contracts up, and then hiring a team of Scrum Masters and product owners to go in and help companies now that are trying to do the conversion from waterfall to agile. I think that's a market that's now just starting to open up, but I definitely have to learn the other end. I know how to do the work, but I need to be successful in the business. So that's my real one of my real driving goals for wanting to be in this program. And then just the knowledge base that it's going to bring for me, overall, I just thought I got so excited I didn't know what to do. I was like, I gotta be here.
So Ronnie, that's a great example. I think our program is a great fit for that type of activity where you'll get the business piece, right? You'll get the fundamentals of how you can structure your business, your service company. And the program is designed for people to leave with their business, be it service, be it product, right? But at the same time, I think in your case, using your existing skill set, the ability to go out and just cycle through a number of portfolio projects in a quick order, right? To be able to say, hey, I used Agile to accomplish this for this client. And then the ability to do that both for what we're finding is a great opportunity is actually a lot of our nonprofit partners. A lot of these nonprofits are, they're not doing waterfall, right? Like they have nothing. They're just like floundering, trying to make it work, trying to do impactful things in our community. And our students have had great success going to some of our nonprofit partners like the YMCA of Greater Richmond, Goochland Cares, and going and meeting with them and using design thinking and Agile to really move those organizations forward where the impact is tremendous to our community. And they are so appreciative and so open to students coming in and running sprints to running really quick hitting things. And what's cool is that you can build a great portfolio quickly. You're not trying to do a 3-year change management project with a behemoth of a company. That might be a great contract you get one day that is like a huge moneymaker for you, but you get to build up a portfolio of, I walked into the Greater YMCA of Richmond, this was their problem, this is how we addressed it, we used Agile, boom, these were the results we got 3 months later. The ability to stack those things up together, I think is what makes it really valuable, while also structuring, how am I going to lay out this business? How am I going to structure it for myself? How am I going to do P&L? Like all of that stuff as a 1-2, I think is something that absolutely would come through in a program like this. Other questions? Welcome, Chris, by the way. Oh, we can't hear you. You're unmuted, but we can't hear you. We can't hear you. Maybe throw something in the chat if you wanted to say something.
And check your settings in your on your computer. See where your NIC card is directed to.
Now can you hear me?
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. Okay, I feel like my mom. Yeah, I must have missed the very beginning, but so just as a background, I'm interested in user experience first and foremost. The design process, agile, lean, all of that. I'm pretty new to. So I'm a science bachelor, graduated in 2019 from Virginia Tech, and I was in neuro and psych. So it's a little bit different from what I would assume most people start off with. But you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I was just wondering, what kind of opportunities would this program have? I know it's like a little bit longer than like the ones I find online for user experience and design courses. I was just wondering, like, what opportunities, what are like the pros and cons of this program?
Yeah, I think we find that this program affords people, they tend to go into more leadership roles. So instead of just like, hey, you do user experience research, you're sort of sectioned off over here, you're on a research team or you're doing that. Folks that come through this program tend to be managers. They tend to inherit teams. I have a cognitive science background. We had a psychology student come through a couple of years ago who was interested in user experience, who went on to CarMax. and has moved up through CarMax doing user experience for CarMax, and was able to take on some pretty significant portfolio and project at CarMax right away coming out of the program. And came in with very little experience prior, and just came out of psychology and went through the program. It's that ability to take not only the UX, but also to understand the design and the business aspects and be able to make more intelligent, more informed decisions in your process on your team is what we tend to hear back. Also, the ability to be cross-functional, so that the reason that these people coming out of the program get tasked for leadership positions is because they speak sort of quote unquote multiple languages. And so you may be on the user experience side, but you're able to talk to the business services team, and you're able to communicate more effectively to them why what you're seeing is going to lead to the results they're looking for. You're able to effectively communicate to the engineering or to the build team and say, hey, this is what I think you all need to do based on what we're seeing over here on my team. And it's that sort of two-part, like some of that's emotional intelligence that you get through running projects, and this, like having the emotional intelligence to work and be a team lead, but then also having enough understanding to say, this is what I love and geek out on, but I can also come and meet you where you're at and speak manager to manager about why my team needs to work better with your team to accomplish this. That tends to be what we see. And I think you missed maybe the first part, but you can go back and listen to it. But this new Shift retail lab that we've opened up is like really dedicated to sort of that user experience. So we're opening a new storefront facility where students have the ability to engage customers, and a lot of our partners like Hamilton Beach, CarMax, Capital One are interested in using this space alongside students to look at user experience. They know that like you're going to get different feedback about something. You know, if you're a Fortune 500 company, no one wants to go to your corporate headquarters to do a focus group anymore. But if you can be in downtown Richmond across from the Siegel Center and get people coming out of a basketball game to come give feedback about something, it's going to be a lot more authentic and genuine than trying to get people to, you know, drive out to a corporate headquarters. So there's going to be some opportunity to do both your own as well as in partnership with a lot of our industry partners.
Okay. So a lot more of a, I guess, all-encompassing, more of like a holistic approach to, you know,
the business school doesn't like
that.
it when we say this, but one of our grads a couple cohorts ago said that the MPI is the MBA for the 21st century. And I think there's something to this, like just coming out of school and knowing business and having an MBA, really, like, I mean, like the world is much more complex today. I mean, a great example of this, I think, is Peloton. So like, I look at a company like Peloton and you say, okay, do they make a physical product? Because they make bicycles and treadmills. Well, they're really a digital company, right? Like it's all about their digital product. Are they a health and wellness company? Are they a social network? Are they, and then you look at the deal that Peloton did with Beyonce and you're like, are they an arts and media company? Like Beyonce's launching new music first on Peloton, like, but I thought they were a hardware company. And I think that's the future. You're looking at companies that are really just not siloed into like, we make cars, we make spin bikes, we make, the new companies are so cross-disciplinary. And I think that's where our program really thrives, is like producing talent that sees the future that way. And so not just comes out and it's like, I have an MBA. And it's like, so you work in business. Our students come out and like, hey, I love user experience, user design, but I can also, you know, I also thrive in business. I also thrive on the design side. I also thrive in working on our marketing team. Like I get that I can cross over. That's where we tend to like, that's who we align ourselves with from a partnership standpoint. And I think that's a differentiator in terms of where I think the innovation economy is going.
Right. And I guess it seems like a lot of what you would expect are just product creators. The line between like product and like a service kind of company has been kind of blending. And I guess, you know, it seems pretty profitable to go towards like you know, creating a service more than just creating like things. And, you know, yeah, that feeds into UX, I suppose.
And that's what's helpful about studying business models alongside all of this, right? Is like, it's one thing to look at the user experience. It's another to look at the user experience alongside different business models and say, okay, how is my user's experience going to feel when overlaid with all these different business models we could go with? Is this a subscription service? Is this a upfront hardware purchase that's expensive? I think
Yeah.
all of that is where it gets really nuanced and really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, knowing about like scalability too of, any kind of product or service.
I do want to also call out in this that everything we do is based in design thinking, so it is user centric. So every
Right.
problem you're solving for, you are always looking to the user. You're building prototypes, tests to focus back on the user, so that you're continuously in that process. And that happens in virtually every project that you do throughout the semester. So learning how to do user-based research. We do have classes specifically in that and in UX UI. And in design thinking and all kinds of things with change management and those kinds of skills too. They just tend to be more of our elective courses so that students can be a little bit more selective about where they want to take the program and make sure that it's flexible for them. I mean, you can do a lot more beyond that, but the root of this program is absolutely in user-based research and really thinking about the user journey and their experience.
Okay. So does it focus, I guess, so the MPI is relatively new, I'm assuming,
Yep.
or at least more
Yeah.
up and coming. Is it, so I'll come out of this program presumably ready to like assume a leadership role, and do most people like start a business right after, or, so I feel like that's kind of far.
So the way it works for most people is it really helps to have had some industry experience before launching a business. Like, you need to have some knowledge of what the problem is from like a first person perspective frequently. That's why most successful startup founders are actually in their 30s. We have this imagination of like, oh, they're college dropouts and that's who the big but like really most successful founders are like in their 30s. They have a lived experience and they saw something really broken, and then they apply some of their own experiences to solving that problem. So some students have come out and launched companies. That has happened. The more successful ones have had some experience prior. We had one of our most successful students raised a $300,000 angel round in his final capstone course. In his last semester, he was raising an angel round for one of his service companies that he was going to go on to run after graduation. So that happens, but there's a certain setup that has to happen. That's not like a magic thing that you come out of the program and you're all set to go raise angel and venture capital. Typically, though, what we're finding is companies really struggle to find product managers. There's no degree that prepares people before this one to be product managers. And a lot of the feedback we're getting from industry partners is this skill set, this cross-disciplinary approach, this user-centric approach is really leading people to go into these companies, whether on an innovation team or on a design or a product team, and be leaders and be managers. It is where our sweet spot is. One of our students graduated. He went from undergraduate with us to the graduate program with us, and he went to HBO Max to lead product for HBO Max coming out of the program. So there have been some students that have stayed locally and done the Capital One, the CarMax thing, and then some that have gone to New York to do HBO Max and lead product straight out of the program. So really good mix, but people tend to find good fits in leadership if that's what they're looking for in the industry track. And I have a startup background, so if you want to do startup thing, I love startup. I love the early stage startup piece. I tend to teach the final capstone class for those students in that track that are specifically looking to raise venture capital and do that. That's one of the things that I really enjoy. And so certainly happy. We've had a number of students go on to Lighthouse Labs, to other nationally ranked accelerators in DC and Texas and New York. So some students in their last semester are immediately upon graduating are accepted into accelerators around the country and take their startup into an accelerator. Has been another outcome that has definitely happened.
Why are product managers so hard to come by, or what are the skills that they're missing that product managers of 20 years ago didn't have?
Yeah, I think it's this really rapidly changing marketplace. And that it's our broken education system, right? The fact that the Da Vinci Center is such an outlier, by taking this cross-disciplinary approach. And everyone's like, oh, that's so weird. When like most of the world requires a very cross-disciplinary approach. Like very few problems require just like one set of experiences and knowledge in order to solve it. And I think our education system is really broken in terms of its approach to like, this is what a degree looks like. It's this many credits. And if you look at how little higher education has changed relative to what the marketplace has done, it's night and day, right? Like education has barely changed at all. So why would we think that the system set up, I mean, the whole education system is based on a factory model, right? Like we prepared people to go work in a factory. That's why things like bells ring and classes start and stop at a certain time, why you sit in rows. It was literally meant to prepare people to go work in factories. And so this idea that the classroom needs to look different for a different type of workplace. I help some other groups with this around the country around like, if your classroom looks like all rows in a lecture hall, and then I show what do the work environments look like at Google and Facebook and these companies, they don't look like rows of chairs and lecture, like the environments are different. And so that's why things like teaching ours in this retail laboratory is more fitting with what CarMax's headquarters looks like, right? Like, so I think some of it is just this, we have a hard time with this siloed approach to education and information where we force graduate students to choose, like, are you going to specialize in business? Are you going to specialize in engineering? Are you going to specialize in design? Instead of more programs like this that are like, why don't we teach you all of those pieces that you need to know, and then let you decide which one you're going to like develop greater experience and real world experience. So I think the problem is there's no product managers need to have a really diverse skill set. And those were only coming by people that had worked in multiple roles for multiple companies and then were becoming product managers. And we're one of the first programs that's recreating that like 3 to 5 years of work experience and multiple roles into an academic program that prepares you to walk out of the program and say, oh, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. Now I'm a product manager. And there's no one else that's really structuring a program to give people those different experiences.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple more questions, but I'll let someone else go.
So what about somebody like me and my brother? We already have our own company. We have like a handyman business that we run in the summer. How would a program like this help with that?
Yeah, so it's been really fun to have people that have their own ventures coming into the program. One, there are a whole number of competitions for students in the entrepreneurship space. So there are lots of local, regional, national competitions, and you have the ability to win free money. So 2 years ago, one of our startups, they won $100,000 in just equity-free money just by entering into pitch competitions, business competitions. There are all these competitions for students. So one is being a student gives you all this great access to free money on the competition circuit of sorts. The other is, the ability to really refine your business model. Your faculty become sort of de facto business coaches. So if you come in from day one and you say, hey, this is our business, now you have people that teach business, business models, business strategy, all of those courses at your disposal in your homework assignments, right? Your in-class assignments, you're applying to your business. So when you're looking at these new models of like, oh, what's a subscription model look like, right? Like, oh, what if we charged like a monthly subscription for our handyman business that was a flat rate of $100 just to be a customer, and then we charged you for each time we came out? Kind of like what you're seeing in the concierge medical space, right? Where I pay to belong to a doctor's office so that when I actually need a doctor, I don't have to wait in this crazy long line and I can actually get in to see them. So you can explore those with your business and get some of that real-time feedback from experts. And use the program to augment and improve your business as you go. And then there's like a little bit of that competition piece too, like the publicity. The university likes to tell the stories of what successful students are doing. And so we are always feeding the university for the homepage at VCU, for others, like highlight the student and what they're working on. So if you've got an existing business, that gets wrapped into our communication pipeline. So I would say, it's a refinement of your business plan, of your strategy, the ability to look at scalability or profitability and have experts walk alongside you. Those are the things, are you adding new components, right? Like, does your handyman business currently have a mobile app? Are you working with classmates while you're in this program to be like, hey, let's build a mobile application for our handyman business, you know, and does the handyman business come to look like the taxi cab business of yesteryear, right? Where the new version is like, oh yeah, like I just make this on-demand call. I take a picture of my problem at my house and you guys price it automatically and like give me real-time pricing without having to send somebody out. And like, could you do that a digital product to augment the actual handyman? So I don't know, I could keep going. We love this stuff. Like that's an example of like, we just like to geek out on these things. And so what you get is a bunch of people that like to geek out on ideas like that.
Okay, thank you so much. That just got me like, I can't even explain how excited I am to like be a part of this organization.
All right, well, I will leave you all. I'm happy to feel free to email me. Allison and Mary Chris are going to give you more of the specifics around what the program looks like on a semester to semester basis, how it looks for, you know, part-time, full-time, all those kind of good things, application process, timelines, all of that good stuff. We are at your disposal. So I'm going to sign off for tonight, but you are free to reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat before I leave. Feel free to reach out to me via email. Happy to set up small one-on-one conversations with people that want to chat more. The same is true for Mary Chris and Allison. So feel free to use any of us to ask future questions. This is a small program. This is about the people in the program. What we care most about are the people and the human beings in this program. So this is not a, you know, we are not a puppy mill of the academy producing degrees and just like, you know, sending you on your way. This is about getting to know people. So we're here. Feel free to take our time. That's what we're here for. Ask us the questions that you have. But I'm going to turn it back over now to Mary Chris and Allison. Thank you all for some great questions.
Thank you, Garrett. Appreciate that. If you drop your email in the chat, you can maybe sign off. But thank you all for being here, and thank you, Garrett, for all the examples. I've worked with you for 5 years, and I know that we could continue to keep going on this path. And normally this is where I would start sharing examples of real life work that students have done in the program, and I absolutely can. We're going to go through the details of the program first. And we can ask more questions at the end, but for the sake of other people who are going to tune into this recording, we're going to take everybody through the details, that kind of stuff. So Mary Chris, you want to key us up with the screen? All right. So DaVinci is a lot more than the Master Product Innovation Program, and I think we always think it's important for students to understand this, or anyone who is watching this potentially could still be a junior in undergrad and may want to engage in one of our undergraduate programs, but really to give the scope of what DaVinci does. So we started with a certificate in product innovation back in, I guess it officially launched in about 2009. And this is much like I guess the child version or the smaller version of the master's program, in that it has courses in arts and business and engineering. And it does a large project that students work with an external company. So we primarily focus our external work with our product innovation programs. And then with venture creation, it's more about how do we help students start businesses. So this is primarily an undergrad, and then the master's program ends up uniting all three of these programs that we see here on the slide, including the human-centered design certificate. So a lot of times you will hear human-centered design interchanged with design thinking. With the master's program, we primarily use the term design thinking. There's a whole other detailed argument we could get into what the differences are between those, but essentially it is the design process, but with empathy involved and a focus on the user and the actual humans who are experiencing a problem. And so yeah, we're solving problems all around. This is what we do, either through certificate programs or through full degree programs like the MPI. The other master program that we offer is a graduate certificate in healthcare innovation. And this is really meant to bridge the people who work in product but have an interest in helping people in the healthcare space, and then individuals who work in the healthcare space, maybe care providers who are seeing problems every day but don't necessarily know how to bridge the gap to actually producing a product, starting a business, or maybe just patenting an idea or a product in order to license it out to put it out into the world. And I can get a little bit more into detail in the next slide. So the Master of Product Innovation program, usually 13 to 18 months. So if you start in the summer semester, so summer of 2022, you could finish as soon as summer of 2023. Generally, you start in June or July, and then you end in August. If you wanted to start in the fall, or if you wanted to maybe take a break over the second summer, you can finish this in 18 months. And we'll show you a setup of the different courses, looking at what this is like to go part-time. We have had students who have gone part-time. Isaiah Harbin, who runs product for HBO Max, he is one of those students. He was working full-time while going through the program and found it to be a better balance for him to do about 6 credits per semester and finish over 2 years' time. It is possible, but we also have a lot of students currently in the program and who have graduated from the program that work full-time while also doing the master's program full-time. So we do know that it is possible. Everything we do is cross-disciplinary, meaning we accept students from all different backgrounds into this program. A lot of times we have students who cross over from being one major in an undergrad to going to do something completely different. I think Matthew Sozio is probably a really great example of that, where in the program he was developing a door called the French slide that both slides like a glass door but also opens like a French door. But he's like, you know what? I know I'm going to start this business. I know I can produce this product, but for my capstone, I want to go work out in industry. So we hooked him up with Xerox, and now he runs business strategy for additive technologies for Xerox. He was a criminal justice major prior to entering this master's program. So very big things. We've had biomedical engineers who have gone off to run product in tech companies as well. So, there's one quote that we've received from one of our students that I think is pretty darn accurate. If you want to do anything, Da Vinci is everything. What you learn here, the mindset can really take you into the scope of any work that you would want to do in the future. And, that makes it future-proof. That means you can continue to be where you need to be just by learning the mindset and the tips and tricks and tools that are taught in this program. And then the details for the graduate certificate in healthcare innovation, that is a 12-credit graduate certificate. We do have separate information sessions on this program, but it is a collaborative program between our School of Nursing's leadership program and the Master of Product Innovation. So 6 credits from each program, and it is truly cross-disciplinary as well. But now we're just inviting some healthcare people on board, real care providers. We even have the Director for Research and Innovation for Nursing in our own health system, Alison Almaty, in this program. And she's just an absolute wonderful person, but she's been utilizing it to help propel the application of medical research directly into the field in a shorter period of time, because it can take like 10 to 15 years to take something that's been studied to translate it into actual practice. And one thing we always like to highlight here is that if you have an interest in healthcare and the MPI and you wanted to take these 2 programs at the same time, there is no additional cost for the certificate. It is only the cost for the master's program, because the 6 credits from nursing directly fit into your 6 elective credits for the MPI program. And so it balances quite well. I guess on that point too, I would like to elaborate that the MPI program is kind of standard in its tuition. So once you are full-time at 9 credits, anything above that, 12 to 15 credits, is free to you in terms of tuition. I can't make promises with fees, but it's free in terms of tuition. So it is capped at that 9 credit limit, which a lot of our students have found helpful in order to take other electives or do independent studies or take on other coursework that they're interested in, but may or may not be related to the work that they're doing in the MPI. It's just a great opportunity. And mind you, 15 credits in a master's program is pretty intense. So we'll caution you to that one, but 12 is definitely doable and something our students do regularly. All right. So the sequence of classes that we work on, this is based on a summer start. So this is how the program was originally developed. And we actually completely revamped this program. It used to be a full 2-year program. And we realized that people we had a lot more interest in doing this in a shorter period of time. So as an innovation center, we decided to do something innovative and start a master's program in the summer and end it in the summer, which is kind of unheard of, but it does accelerate the coursework quite a bit. So I'll briefly kind of go through these courses and just give you an idea of what they are, so you get a high level view of what the program is. So starting in the summer, we offer a course called Inno 600. We don't have names here, but that course is Integrative Design Studio, and it's normally covered by a trip to Portugal or to Italy for the European Innovation Academy. And that's where we take you from idea to startup in just 3 weeks. It is the fire hose effect of all the things, a product and entrepreneurship. So you'll go from an idea, you'll build the prototypes, you'll test them with users, you develop a marketing plan, you actually work to launch your product or a version of your product, and you pitch to investors and get feedback in that space. COVID has kept us out of that for the last 2 summers. We're hopeful that in 2022, we'll be able to go to this, but students can complete that course either at the beginning of their program or at the end. May change some timeline things, but we can talk those details later. In the meantime, we've been offering another course as an elective. We've labeled it as a 691, which is a topics course in the Da Vinci Center, but it focuses on innovation, design, and change management. And so you get a couple internationally recognized certificates in design thinking, and you actually get to practice and do simulations and work on real projects. And the person who, Garrett co-teaches this class, but who he co-teaches with is Gopa Nair, who has run design thinking in large companies for a very long time. He does it for the US government now, but one of the larger companies he was running it in was Capital One. And so that's a good point to call out, is that our faculty in this program, they actually are in the real world doing this stuff live. They are doing it at the same time while they were also teaching in the program. So, you know, if you look below into fall is where we're really teaching more about industry, right? How does innovation work in industry, and how do you connect the dots between what you're learning in those classrooms? So 501 being arts, 502 being business, 503 being technology or engineering, and 590 being project. How do you connect what you're learning in those classes about innovation and product to the real world and what's happening? So we bring in guest speakers to expand your network and expand that dot connecting. But 501, taught by a designer, taught by somebody who's been doing UX UI for a very long time. 502, international business consultant. 503 is taught by a guy who has more degrees than I can count in engineering and technology, but he works for Canon Cameras, and he's building their entire 15,000 square foot maker space and prototyping lab there. So some really interesting people that you get to engage with. There are other, so moving into spring, that's where more of the entrepreneurship side happens, more focused in the program. Now, mind you, if you already have an idea that you're coming in with, you can always be working on that in the fall and applying the things that you're learning in these other classes to your project and what you're doing. But in the spring, we really focus the entire cohort on working specifically on an idea that's working towards commercialization. So if you have your own idea, I know Rodney, I know Jalen, Jordan, you guys have your own ideas. You would be able to apply, work on those directly in your courses for your coursework. But let's say you don't have an idea. Let's say you're coming to the program for a different reason. Well, you could join into one of these teams if they need someone with your skill set. You can take an idea from our health system, from our tech transfer office. You can work with people from the outside if they have an idea that they want to work on. They can't attend your classes, but you could work on an idea from somebody else. And we also just formed a relationship with NASA. They have lots of technology that they would love to see startups form out of, and just work as a commercial product. So there's lots of opportunities to find projects for the side of things, but it is important to understand the entrepreneurship mindset when you are developing the ability to go out and do product, whether that's for yourself or someone else. This is the key to what most big organizations are looking for when they start talking about that entrepreneurial mindset or that grit, that resilience, those types of things that exist in people that they would like to employ at their companies. So that mainly happens through 651 in the spring. There's also an elective during that time. You can span out into other programs. We also offer electives in prototyping. In the summer, we mostly offer things in UX, UI design, in user-based research, intellectual property protection, Scrum Master certification, those kinds of things. And now we're dabbling a little bit more in the fall and spring semesters with other electives that are not just open to MPIs, but open to any master's degree on campus. So it expands your network even more with lots more people, specifically from arts, business, engineering, humanities, and sciences, or from the medical side of VCU. And then the 652 course. This is the way that you end the program and launch yourself out into the world. It is probably one of the most independent courses that we have, as a master's capstone should be. But there are a few different tracks that you can go to finish the program. One of them being continuing your 651 work. So you'll go through a review at the end of the spring and be approved to move forward for summer, or if you want to continue that in the fall. to work your project towards commercialization. Let's get your business started. Let's actually get this thing out there. Do we need a Kickstart campaign to get your initial funding? Are you already in revenue and we need to introduce you to some investors? What does that space look like for you? So we meet you where you are and help advance you forward. Another option is to be employed, to have a job or an internship. No matter what, we kind of label it as an internship, so you'll hear us talk about that or use that language fairly frequently. And it just needs to be in product, in UX UI, so somewhere within the product space. And you just report back. You complete blog work. You have conversations with your faculty and fellow students about what it is that you're doing in that job. So there is a writing component to it, but it's really about reflecting on what you're doing and how you make yourself more successful in that space. So if it is an internship, most likely you're competing for a job. How do you win that job? How do you manage up? How do you move yourself into a leadership position at the end of that internship? That's how Matt Sozio ended up in leadership at Xerox. He won his internship after 2 months and they just moved him up pretty darn quickly. The third option for this is to complete a true master's thesis. We have students who dabble in this who maybe want to go get a PhD afterwards, and that's absolutely possible. There are ways to sculpt the program around that focus as well. But most students who come through this program do not choose the thesis option, mostly because that is a little bit more akin to traditional academia. And our program is a bit more applied, but we always leave it as an option in case a student wants to dive deep into research and pursue a PhD or more education. Mary Chris, I think you're next.
Yep. And so we've mentioned that you can take the program part-time. And so we just have a slide here to demonstrate what that would look like. And I think one of the coolest things about our program is, as Allison mentioned, we moved from being a 2-year master's program to a 13 to 18-month program. What's pretty amazing is if you decide that you would like to go part-time, you would still finish this master's program in 2 years. By contrast, in a traditional 2-year master's program, it would take you 4+ years to finish a program part-time. So I think a real benefit if you want to go part-time is that you can still move through in that 2-year time period. These are all the same courses that Allison went through on the last screen. You can start full-time in the summer or fall. I just have it kind of drawn out here from the fall, just to give you an idea what that would look like. And also just wanted to highlight, you'll notice those last 2 courses, the NO 651 and 652. So the class that focuses on entrepreneurship and then your final capstone in the 652 are 6 credit classes. So that's why those 2 semesters in this part-time model look a little lighter, because you'll actually be enrolled in 6 credits in that time. So this is something we work with students a lot. I work with students as an advisor for the program a lot on kind of figuring out the path that's exactly right for them. The 500 series courses and the 651 and 652 are only offered in certain semesters. So if you needed to break it down part-time, this is kind of what it would look like, but you don't have to take 501 before 502. You can take 501 and 503. So there's some flexibility in there that we can talk through on an individual basis, but just to kind of show you visually how it can be done, we've included this information here. And moving on from there, I just want to talk a little bit about how to apply, and we'll have time at the end to answer any questions about anything that we've gone over. But if you are interested in applying, you would go to davincicenter.vcu.edu. Also just Google VCU Da Vinci Center, will pop right up. If you click on the graduate header, you can either choose then the Master of Product Innovation or the Healthcare Innovation Certificate. But at the bottom of the Master of Product Innovation page, there is an Apply Now button that will take you out to the graduate school page to apply. I believe there may still be some applications out there that they're probably wrapping up, but make sure you're choosing the 22-23 application cycle, just in case anybody still has any 21 applications out there. So once you get to that page, you'll choose the 22-23 application cycle and should be able to find us that way. And just covering our early application deadline that we're working toward right now is December 15th. That is a deadline for summer. If you know right now that this is something that you would be wanting to start in the fall, our fall application will actually open on December 15th after this early deadline has passed. But our summer application is early deadline is December 15th. What that gets you is you'll move through the interview process a little bit earlier. You'll be the first in line to be considered for graduate assistantships or scholarships down the road. Also just kind of helps you in your planning to maybe know a little bit earlier what you're going to be doing. Our regular deadline is February 15th. So, that deadline will be out there as well. But for summer, our early deadline is December 15th, and we would love to have students applying, by that deadline, just so, again, we can help move you through the process quickly so you kind of know what your next step is starting over the summer. What we're looking for, Garrett really touched on this, so I'll just kind of cover here. We are looking really heavily at things like your statement of intent, your resume, what references have to say about you. If you are coming to us with an arts background, we do require a portfolio. So if you're coming from an arts or design background, but we love to see a portfolio from all students. So if you have a website showcasing your work, or a website linking to a business that you've already started, we love to see those kind of things. Again, we're wanting to know who you are as a person, kind of who you are as a full human being. So anything that you can provide in the application process that really showcases that is really what we're interested in. We do not need standardized tests. Those are not going to be required at all. We waived them during COVID because it was just hard for people to get to testing centers, and testing centers weren't open. And we really found that it wasn't in line with kind of what we were looking for anyway. So no standardized tests required. I think it probably still says in the graduate school requirements that they are, but they are not. You do not need to submit those. So the things that you would need to submit are listed here. If you are getting ready to apply, know that the names and email addresses of references need to be in, but you don't have to like upload letters into the system or anything like that. And in your statement of intent, there's information on that in the application system, but that is our chance to get to know you and what your interest in this program is and sort of what you're hoping to get out of it. So those would be the things that would need to be submitted. After we receive applications, you will be contacted about scheduling an interview. Under this early application deadline, we have a little more time, so sometimes it takes a little while to get those interviews on the books, if you're applying right now, but we will be contacting students within, probably, 2 weeks to a month after applying, and to have you come in and do an interview. Again, we're just really wanting to get to know you through the application and interview process, and so we place a lot of weight on those things. If you applied early and got accepted, when would you know of a decision? Great question. So that's going to kind of depend a little bit on the timing of like when you submit your application, when the interview happens. And then we do start to look at kind of what we're putting together as a cohort. So we tend to group interviews and try to interview 3 or 4 people at a time to make sure we're putting together a cohort that is really diverse as far as experience that students are bringing in to the program. And so we would probably be able to give you a better idea at that interview, kind of where we were in that timeline. But I would say typically we're usually able to get those decisions out within a month. Allison, would you say is reasonable usually after the interview? All right, that is all we have as far as official slides. So I will put some contact information up here. That's our website, that's our general email, which gets routed to either Allison or I. We can also put our emails in, into the chat as well, so that you'll have those directly. But we are happy to take any questions here as well. So feel free to chat or unmute.
I had a quick question on, so for user experience, a lot of programs will provide like boot camps and sprints. I remember Garrett mentioning it briefly. Is that a course that's going to be involving that, or is that internships, or how does that work?
Not a course. We do sprints, jams, and hacks. And so all of those are defined in kind of different ways. Sprints tend to be 1 to 2 days max. Jams tend to be, or no, I'm sorry, I'm getting that wrong. Sprints are 1 to 2 weeks. Jams tend to be 1 to 2 days. And then hacks, depending on who we're partnering with. So if it's health hacks through College of Engineering or something like that, those generally fall under the extracurricular side of Da Vinci. So in the past, we've kind of described ourselves as having this academic, experiential, and experimental side to us. And we're kind of shifting that language a little bit and really focusing on the academic part at the top of the pyramid, and then how we supplement those academic experiences and then provide more, I guess, generalized experience to all of VCU through our experiential work. And so we will run sprints in, say, I guess we're probably going to do them in spring, where we will give subject matter and problems under certain, so there might be one for healthcare, there might be one for equity and inclusion, there might be one, specifically on a problem that one of our partners, like Dominion Energy, gives us. And then different groups all work on the same problem, but from different perspectives, and work to pitch their stuff at the end. So giving a lot more of those experiences. Hacks are very similar in that they just have a more variable time period. And then we also offer jams, and they can provide micro credentials. You can do them directly with Adobe, or ones that we may be running most of the time there through a partnership. But lots of these other experiences that give you more problem solving experience, but generally is not inside of a classroom. If we're running things inside the classroom, it generally is either an 8-week or a 15-week long project that goes into a lot more depth than what we could ever cover in a sprint jam or hack. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the course load for the classes themselves, are they more, I mean, so there's like an overarching project that you'd be working on as a, I don't know, not a thesis, but I guess somewhat like a thesis project?
Kind of, yeah. So in the fall, the course that I teach in 0590 is focused on an industry project. So we're pulling the project in from the outside, or the problem in from the outside. You'd work on that for the entire time. If you are, and then going into the spring, in the first half of your capstone, you're really focusing on either an idea that you're bringing forward, joining in with somebody else, or working on an external idea that we've solicited from the outside that you were interested in working on. So then that's where you're diving deep in that 6-credit course and working a problem towards commercialization, and you can continue that into the next 6 credits, or you can choose to move in a different direction if employment or working for an outside group is more interesting. We have had students who have shifted projects for the second half of the capstone, but it is important to understand that the first half of the capstone needs to be different than the second half of the capstone in terms of what you're doing and that content. So it's not like you take 651 and you work an idea towards commercialization, either it's unsuccessful or you decide you don't want to work on it again. And then in 652, you just start over and do the same process. That we can't do. It would have to be something that is already later stage, that we can work this, further into the product development and launch process. Otherwise, you're only seeing the beginning of that process. So yeah, over a couple semesters, you can continue those, but in between. So in any course that you have as an elective through DaVinci, there will be specific projects that you're working on or problems to solve. So it's usually anywhere between 5 to 9 distinct portfolio experiences that you can have throughout the program to exercise these skills. And there are a lot more that are offered outside of the original coursework.
Are the skills, do you get to choose what, so like the tools that, most designers would probably use are like the Adobe, like essential ones, are there classes that are specifically focused on that, or is it expected that you have some sort of idea how to use them? Or
you don't have to know how to use them, but we don't have time in a 30-credit master's to teach those in depth. Now, mind you will learn some Figma, some XD in the 502 course in the fall semester, in the arts and design course. And if you take the UX UI course or the user-based research, there's some of that in there. But Adobe is offered for free to all of our students. So DaVinci pays for it for our students to have it. And then there's also LinkedIn Learning, which is you can learn the entire Adobe suite through that. I say that because I was a design faculty member, and that's how I learned design as a designer. Going through undergrad. I didn't like it at the time having to do tutorials, but I knew more about Adobe than my professor did by the end of that. And so it was super helpful, but all of that is free as well. And two, if you need, short experiences to know how to use a tool or a trick in one of those programs, I used to teach 5-hour-long Friday classes on those programs. So I may have to get some refreshers on some of the newer stuff that they've done, but I use them every day. And that is my background and the background of several other people in DaVinci. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't get to geek out on design very often. So given the opportunity.
Understood.
All right, anything else?
Quick question, are our classes still going to remain virtual, or are we moving to
Hmm.
actual on-site
Great
classes?
question. Great question. So this semester, so over the summer, we plan to offer our electives online. It prevents our people from having to move to Richmond quite so quickly on such a short timeline. And then especially if we're able to travel abroad, they're basically moving to Richmond to take electives, and then they're not even living in the place for 3 weeks because we're abroad. So it's worked really well for both our faculty and for our students to do our electives online. And some of those are 2 to 3 weeks long. One of them, the Scrum Master one, which you wouldn't need, Rodney, is only a week long. But they're meant to be short, intensive courses. Mind you, for their longer hours because they're shorter, but you can complete those remotely. So that's what we did this summer, and hopefully, so I'm speculating about what next year will look like, right? But if anything in the last 18 months has taught us, do we actually know? So this is the plan right now. We solicited feedback from our students to confirm that they indeed wanted to be in person this fall. And I got to tell you, last fall, it was rough teaching with masks. You can't read your students. It's, it's hard to tell if they're excited. I think we're all just a little bit freaked out. We're masked and we're in person this time, and the energy is completely different. I love going to class. I have no problem reading the students. They're very vocal in terms of questions of each other and myself, and there's just a different energy. This idea of being safe and conscientious is just natural practice now, and we are having a blast in the classroom. So the program would primarily be in person during the fall and spring semesters, and then in the summer with 652, as you complete the program, that has never required anyone to be in person, at least not since we revamped the program, because our students are going to need to go work for other companies that are in different cities. And so all of that is done through digital methods, things as casual as Marco Polo, and the things that are a little bit more formal like blogs and papers. But yes, you can do that. So basically the summers you don't have to be here, but the fall and the spring are in person. Yeah.
That's the portion I try to have to work out, because me being a teacher at Richmond Public Schools, I'm teaching at the same time most people are teaching.
So our classes run from 6 to 8:40 p.m. So all of our classes at nighttime. I can't say that for the electives that are offered in the spring and the fall, because, well, in the fall, I can't guarantee that because students are in class 4 days a week. So for arts, business, engineering, and then the project class. So that time slot's already taken, and we're not making anybody come in and take a class from 6 to 8:40 on a Friday night. So, but that one's already full. Like that semester already has 12 credits in it. And if you wanted to take something beyond that, you could. But in the spring, we should be able to offer our electives at nighttime, and all of our summer electives this year were also offered past 5 p.m.
Wonderful.
Right? Make it work for working adults.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say, I forgot to say that with the part-time piece, is it is everything that is required for us is typically 6 to 8:40, 5 o'clock sometimes in the summer, and the courses that are sometimes not, that are electives, they're electives. And so I've never had trouble with students finding an elective somewhere at the university that's either entirely online or at night as well.
Okay. I definitely would love to complete the year-long program, 23 months? Well, not 23, 13 months.
Yep.
I'd love to complete that. To the internships, that's very valuable, especially for what I'm looking to do, because it's going to allow me to get in, work with a company. Hopefully I can work, because most Scrum Masters are remote anyway. So that works well, and I can still keep my regular job.
Right. I mean, there's potential there to even be an intern for Vistos Enterprises. The guy who taught you, he does Scrum Master stuff around the country. Does it all, actually internationally. And so being able to work side by side with him as a Scrum Master could provide insight to a lot of different companies.
That would be great. That would absolutely be great.
I don't think we've ever had anybody with this perspective that you're showing. We're going to talk about waterfall a bit in our program, but it's a different kind of waterfall. It has more to do with product and marketing than it does software waterfall. But so different kind of thing, but both very interesting theories. And I'm intrigued by your idea, so I'm excited to hear more.
Good deal.
Cool. Anything else? Oh, I guess I could elaborate a little bit on the internship piece. So usually students are tapping into our personal networks for this. So if there is a place in the world that you want to work, a particular company you want to work for, we start that in the fall semester. So we have mentorship that is offered to our students. It's actually required once a month that you go through a mentorship meeting with us to make sure that you're on track for thinking about the ideas that you'll use in 651 and 652. And in that, if you don't know, we can help you explore that. Maybe you want to be a UX researcher. Maybe you want to specifically be a product owner. We can introduce you to people in our network so you start building the relationships before you need the job. And I gotta say, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given is ask people for money and they'll give you advice. Ask them for advice and they might give you money. And that building those relationships has everything to do with the success of getting the job in the end, right? Because people are gonna go to their network, the people they know and trust, more often than they're going to go to a complete stranger. And so if we can help you develop those relationships just by having conversations and being interested in what other people do, it can help advance your skill set to go forward. We have had one student who got a job in the fall with CarMax, who continued to work that in the spring, didn't work on it for her capstone, but within 3 months was already promoted to running her product team. So she came in as a product associate and immediately went up before she even graduated in the program to running the full product team. It's helpful that we have faculty, mentors, and various other people who are in CarMax, and so they know what our students know from coming out of the program because they've been intimately involved in it. So it's easy to attest for the skill set that we're training for it. CarMax fits that pretty well. They are not a car company in my mind. Any other questions? All right, well, if there are any from here on out, email us. We've said it a couple of times now, but please reach out. We're happy to have these conversations. This is, the MPI is our #1 priority. And so we are always open to having these conversations and helping you figure out whether or not this program is right for you. We are not going to try to convince you to join a program that doesn't seem like a good fit. And usually by the end of those conversations, both people know. So if you're excited about this, you know, we will answer the most detailed questions that you have to help make sure that you're making the right decision for yourself. Well, thank you all for being here tonight and spending your time with us and asking great questions.
Thank you both, Allison and Mary.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful evening.
Good stuff.